Nice to have you with us here at the Living Room Sessions with the clever message that I really hope encourages you guys during this time. I hope that it gives you a new perspective that can just strengthen you during this next few weeks that we have as we're preparing ourselves to go into level 3 lockdown and beyond. Something that goes beyond the lockdown, though, something we can use for all of our lives going forward. And I want to talk to you about wars make generals. That's the title, if you want to call it. Wars make generals. I was reading an article. I was actually very intrigued by this idea of a soldier being a professional soldier. So I thought to myself, could you start off as a private in the army? And I thought, what is the career path for a soldier? And surprisingly, they have so many different ranks and levels before you can get to the top, right? So you start at a private, you then become like a major, sergeant, and then eventually you get into a general, right? That's the top. The leader of the army is the general. And I found an interesting stat that only about 0.5% of all soldiers actually make it to the general level. Only 0.5% of all the people in the army make it to the level of general. I thought that was incredibly strange that only such a small percentage makes it that far. I also learned that before you can, even if there's an opening for a general, before you even considered for the position, you need to have around 30 years experience in the military before they'll even consider you. So it's not just about the 30 years experience. You also have to have a clean record, a good disciplinary record. You must have a proven success ratio with the operations that you've done, with the tasks you fulfill, and you must be a soldier that's good at following orders. It's all those things that you need to do, and do that for 30 years before they will consider you to potentially be general. How crazy is that? Now, obviously this means how efficiently you carried out your tasks matters. The way that you obeyed your seniors, your superiors, matters. To become a general, a soldier must go through years of many different operations, many different battles. They must face many hard situations, conflicts constantly. And if they stay under authority and they operate correctly, eventually what will happen is they can get promoted to the next level, next level, next level. And if they carry on doing this for a space of 30 years, they can reach the highest level in the army, which is general. Their constant war experiences is what prepares them to be generals in the future. So when I say wars make generals, I'm not saying a war comes and then the generals rise. I think that's true in a way. What I'm saying to you is a constant life of war and battles prepares a person, a soldier, to become a general in the future. So listen, you do not become a general in wartime. Wartime forges you into becoming a general. Let me say it again. You do not become a general in wartime. War forges you into the person you need to become the general. The general's role for its nation is to protect the people against conflicts. It serves others. That's a very important role about the general. Generals, think about it. Right now, there's a soldier or a private who will become a future general. That person is going to fight for others in the future. Maybe not right now, but in the future. Here's how this relates to us today. This is what I really want to just talk about. In life, we face many battles, many conflicts, and most of them are very difficult to endure. Some threaten our lives, some are sent to destroy our faith. We all face it. And it starts when we're very young, but as we get older, the difficulties get more progressively harder. You know, the older you get, the more complex life gets, the more drama you have. It's just how it works, unfortunately. All these battles are preparing us to become people that the future conflict requires. So right now I'm dealing with some stuff, I'm going through things, but this is just preparing me for the next battle that I'll face, or the next conflict I'll face in my future. All these battles are preparing us to become people that the future conflict requires. But the battle is not just for us and for us to overcome for ourselves. It's also that we overcome for other people. Our conduct in the battles that we face now determines our authority later in future wars that others face. I want to say that part again. Our conduct in the battles that we face now determines our authority later in future wars that we fight for others. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about, and it's found in the story of King David. We know it so well. If you are taking notes, it's found in 2 Samuel 1:17. It might be 1 Samuel 17. It might be one of those. You can just check it out. That's your whole, just read the whole chapter to know what I'm talking about. But it's the story of David and Goliath. We spoke about this a few weeks ago, and you know it. David is a shepherd boy, okay? This is the highlights. He's a shepherd boy. He's been instructed by his father to take supplies to the front lines where Goliath has been threatening the Israelites, okay? You know it. When he gets there, he sees Goliath, this giant of a man, making threats and striking fear in the heart of the Israelites, in God's people. So he rises up, he challenges Goliath, knocks him down with his slingshot, and then chops off his head. When Israel sees Goliath defeated, all the fear that was shackling them is broken off. They rise up, they fight the Philistine army and defeat them completely. See, when David destroyed Goliath, their fear fell off and then they could defeat the armies. That's very important. David's victory in this war was directly linked to his victory in private battles. His private battles prepared him for this big public victory. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. You see, what happened before David fought Goliath and killed Goliath, there's a story about how bears came to attack the flock, his father's flock, or lions. Bears and lions came. And what he would do is he'd kill the bear, kill the lion in protecting his father's sheep. That's the present, right? Previously, that's where he was. The future for David is that he's still protecting his father's sheep. But the father is not his biological father, it's now God, and the sheep is the people of Israel. And now, instead of defending them against lion and bear, he's defending it against a giant called Goliath. You see, David's previous battles that he handled well gave him the authority to handle the later war that would come for others. See, when he could defeat the lion and the bear privately in his own life, then what would happen is he could get to a place in the future where he could fight Goliath for others. And that's linked. See how his conduct in his previous battles mattered for the future conflict that was coming. And that's what today is about. War makes generals. Everyone talks about Goliath as this mighty warrior who came and instilled fear in the people of Israel. But I don't see it that way. I see Goliath as the great revealer. See, when Goliath showed up, he didn't make the people afraid. He just revealed what was already inside of them. See, when he rose and he was this giant of a man and he was threatening Israel, he didn't make them scared. All the fear that was in them was just revealed. It came to the surface. The same thing happened with King David. Well, before he was King David, when he saw Goliath, all the faith, all the strength that he had in him from previous battles shone forth when Goliath came. See, Goliath still reveals whatever is inside you. So David was different from the Israelites. That's why he could fight, because in him, he's been having fear. He's been having faith. He's been having strength in his life from the bear, from the lion. So when Goliath came, those same things came out. But the Israelites, when they saw this guy, they were just afraid. All the fear in them, all the hopelessness in them, that came forward. See, Goliath doesn't make you afraid. It just reveals where your heart is already. And I think that was quite an important lesson for us to learn here today. See, my friends, the things like this that we're going through, coronavirus, the lockdown, the economic uncertainty, job losses, all these things is a type of Goliath. We are in the middle of a storm, in the middle of fire. The question that we have to ask ourselves and look at for ourselves is, what is coming out? See, Goliath has come. He's made some threats. Cool. But what is coming out of you? Are we like Israel? Fear, crippled with fear, hopeless. We feel hopeless. We want to give up. Or are we like David and we rise with more faith and more strength because of the victories we've won already? And that's an important thing. What we're facing is important. See, Goliath just reveals where we are right now. The issue is not that we're facing a Goliath right now. There's always going to be a Goliath in your life. This one is on a bigger scale for sure, but you're always going to face another Goliath. The issue is, what does Goliath reveal within us? What is coming out of us when Goliath comes? And that, what comes out, is it fear and hopelessness or faith and strength? And the answer depends on how we have fought our previous battles. In those times of difficulty that we've faced in this life, have we remained faithful, steadfast, strong, faithful, confident? Have we remained that way? Or have we fallen apart and succumbed to the fear and the hopelessness? That's important. Either way, Goliath's main role is to reveal that. The challenge is this: if in our previous battles we've always responded with fear, we've always responded with hopelessness, then when a new Goliath comes, when we face a new challenge, then it's very difficult for us to now suddenly have faith. And the reason is simple: because I've been practicing for so long and living for so long in fear and hopelessness that now when Goliath comes, that's my go-to, fear and hopelessness. The contrast is also true. If in my previous struggles, my previous battles in life, that I've risen in faith and I've remained strong and I've remained faithful, that when the new Goliath comes, I'm still strong, faithful, because that's what I have been already. You understand? So our previous battles matter. They absolutely matter. See, when I operate in faith with all the struggles I've faced in my life, financial struggles, relationship struggles, health issues, and I've maintained my faith, I've been faithful to God, I've submitted myself to his authority regardless, then I am well versed in staying in faith and remaining steadfast again. So do you see what I'm saying? Our current battles matter for our future conflicts. But not just the future conflicts that we will face, the future conflicts our families will face, the future conflicts our friends face, the future conflicts our community and even nation faces. Depends on how am I doing in my current and my previous battles. Those are a yardstick or a monument we must look back on and say, I've handled this correctly or not. If I haven't, no judgment. It just means that I have to work on some things and build my faith in this time of peace. But when we face with war, those things that I've invested in me over all the years will come out, because Goliath reveals what's in your heart already. David won his private battles so that he could stand in the gap and win public battles for others. David won his private battles and therefore qualified to win public ones for others. And that's the key. There's so much fear all around us during this time. Like David, have we handled our previous battles well? Or like Israel, have we succumbed to the fear? In the face of what's going on, we can either rise and take it head on and be an example for those around us, or we can fall to pieces like everyone else and just add to the tension and anxiety. I believe right now that this is an opportunity that we have as God's people in this time as now. There is something about adversity that burrows deep into the soul of a person and draws greatness out. There's something about suffering and pain and disappointment that unlocks parts of us that would otherwise remain dormant. Now, I don't know why God has chosen for these things to bring out the best in us, but that works if we handle it correctly. If we handle these things correctly with God by our side, we hold on to his word, we remain in faith, then we come out stronger. But if we fall apart when these things happen, then all that's happening is we're losing and eroding the little bit of faith we still have left. Never despise the lion and bear battles that you face in life, because those things that no one sees, as hard as they are, as painful as they are preparing you to become a slayer of a giant later. See, your lion and bear battle now, which hurts and its struggle, is preparing you to slay a Goliath later. Not just for yourself, but for those around you. And the coronavirus and the situation is the perfect time where we see who has been David in their previous battles and who hasn't. Again, no judgment. But when I have struggled and now I'm faced with this, I'm feeling more hopeless, more faithless. But when I have already been victorious and been winning and been faithful, then when this thing of this magnitude comes, I can stand firm and rise and take off their head like David did. But it all depends on my previous battles? What have I been preparing myself for all this time? See, David didn't just kill Goliath. He first fought a lion and a bear. So have we been victorious in our private battles or not? Let me finish with this statement. The wars you are facing now are preparing you to be a general later. The wars and the current conflicts you're facing with now, no matter how small or how big they are, right now what you're going through is preparing you to be a general later. Wars make generals. And I just hope that this message today encouraged you, to give you some perspective that when you're going through difficulty, it's actually the pathway to promotion and to get from a private in the army to a general, is that you are constantly around conflict, you're constantly around war, you're constantly fighting. But how you fight matters. How you dig deep in those moments matters. Whether you remain a faithful person in faith, trusting God, or not matters. See, David, I'm going to say it again, the reason David could become such a powerful figure, not just king, but before that to slay a giant Goliath when no one else wanted to, was because he was privately defeating bears and lions already. And so how we fight, how we handle this conflict, the corona, the economic downturn, all these things we're facing matters. It matters for right now. It matters for the future conflicts that we will face, but also the future conflicts we will face for others. And my hope and prayer for you today is that we understand that conflict and adversity, as much as it hurts, is preparing us for something else and something more. All the greatest people in the Bible, if you mention any names, you'll see that adversity and struggle and conflict was always with them. They went through a lot of difficult things to become the people that they were. And so I believe that God is trying to raise his people, his church, to become just as influential, just as powerful. But then we have to go through similar things. And that means we're going to also face adversity and conflict. And God is using the fires of war to prepare us to be the generals he needs later. Amen.